Welcome to iBelieve TV, the show that takes the mystery out of the effects and techniques the media and government use to keep you in the dark. My name is Justin Ballett, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about why I became active. Well, it didn't take me long to realize that if I didn't become active, at some point, because I was involved in marijuana, I might have a run-in with the law. And when I have that run-in with the law, obviously I'm going to suffer the consequences of my inaction. By not standing up, by not becoming active, there is no possible way in which the laws could ever change. But by becoming active, there is a possibility that the laws can change, because the more people that become active and the more people that put pressure on the government, the more people that stand up as individuals for their individual human rights, the more chance you have of having the charges dropped against you and eventually of having the laws changed. So I realized that I had to become active, because if I didn't, I was going to suffer the consequences of my inaction. Now, immediately when I decided to become active, I noticed that there were all these different organizations out there, and they were all saying, we've got the answer, come here, we can do it for you, we'll help you. And it didn't take me long to realize that these organizations were not there to help. They were there to just lead you round and round in circles. They have these big talk, and we're going to do this one day, and we're going to do this one day, we've got such big plans, and when that day comes, the government, they're going to be so afraid of us, they're going to be so scared when we come along and we do this huge court action, that's the day. But I noticed that they never did any of these things that they said that they were going to do. Instead, all they did was they would every now and then have a march, or every now and then have a group meeting, and basically they just wanted you to buy the t-shirt. They were not actually doing anything to solve anything. It didn't take me long to realize what was going on. Somebody told me once that the sole purpose of our existence, us at the bottom, is to keep them at the top in power and rich. That's our sole purpose. We are here to work for them, as slaves, not to achieve for ourselves, to work for them, to pay taxes, to go to war, and to die. The United Nations says that a good citizen is a good producer and a consumer. Now, if you go and ask anybody, what would you do if you won the lotto? Most people, if you won 15 million rand, that was the lotto, 30 million, you've got to get your lotto ticket. Now, obviously, if you won 30 million, you just put that money into an investment somewhere and live off the interest. So they can't have a system whereby you can enrich yourself, because every single person, if they became rich, would stop working and would just live off the interest. So how are you going to function, or how is this system going to function, where the people at the top, the rich, who never have worked a day in their lives, who don't want to ever work, how is the system going to function if you are not working for them? How can they run the system? Well, they can't. You see, slavery, as Charles Galton Darwin said, has existed in one form or another since the beginning of time. We all think that slaves are these poor people that get whipped and beaten and they have to go and do work. And under the old system of slavery, the slave master had to provide you with a place to stay, with your transport, with your clothes, with your food and your medicine. Nowadays, everybody is just a wage slave. They give you just enough money to survive for 1 month, and instead of them providing you with your clothes and your food, etc., they pay you, and then you have to buy off them your transport. You have to buy off them your food. You have to buy off them your clothing, your medical. You have to buy everything that you now need off them. So basically they're giving you money, which they say is freedom, and then you giving it straight back to them in order so that you can have a roof over your head. And so there's no difference to the system. The system is exactly the same. But the point of the system is to ensure that you can never get freedom, that you can never ever get yourself to a point where you can become dependent or independent on yourself. And the thing with marijuana is, marijuana can make you very rich, and it can make you independent. You can do everything that you need with marijuana. You can grow it for food, you can grow it for clothing, you can grow it for housing, you can use it as a medicine. There's a million different things that you can use marijuana for. And so they can't have a system whereby you get freedom from marijuana. They have to have a system where either it's regulated on the one hand, like it is today, with fines, which is similar to the old system of slavery, where the slave master would pay. So all that they do when they change the system is they come along and they say, here's money, we'll give you the money, but you have to buy the transport from us, you have to buy your housing from us, you have to buy your clothes from us. So it's exactly the same thing. Instead of now having a fine system, you're just going to have a permit system. So marijuana is still not free. You're still not free because they always can control the permits. And if you start making money, then it has come up with a new law to make sure that you don't make money. And the problem is, once you get into the legal side as opposed to the human rights side, you can't defend yourself with human rights anymore. And we've seen this happening time and time again. And I was very lucky because I was able to see this, and people were able to point this out to me at an early age, that the whole idea of the organizations was not to free marijuana, it was to regulate, control and limit marijuana. So I never went down that path. Instead, I went down a path of human rights where I actually got the empirical studies, and I've been using the empirical studies against the government to stand up for my rights. And that was why I became active, and that is why today I don't belong to any organization, and I still continue down the same path of human rights, because that's the only way in which we can ever get freedom. Otherwise, we're just going to continue on the same system where our existence is solely for their benefit. It's solely to keep them in power and to keep them rich. And I'm not here to be a good slave for them. I was never put on this planet so that I could be a slave for them. I believe I have a purpose, and most people that you speak to will tell you that they believe that they have a purpose, but you can't have a purpose if they have a purpose for you, which is to be a slave. So that was why I chose to be active. I chose to become active. I chose to stand up for my human rights, and the reason why I chose not to join any specific organizations out there, because what I've realized is that as an individual, although you don't have a lot of power in terms of the group, as an individual you can never be infiltrated. And that means that you can always keep going in the right direction, because you only have to answer to yourself. You only have to answer to yourself as to whether you are following your heart and whether you are following the correct direction, as opposed to the outside influences of a group that can be infiltrated and controlled by other agendas. And I hope you can all become active yourselves, because we need more and more people to start becoming active as individuals as opposed to joining the groups.